Time is X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Hour. Feels like we haven't been on in a while because we missed Friday's episode. Then we had the Preakness, so we have a lot to discuss. We're going to do pretty much just a full recap. I'm going to give Aaron the floor for the most part because he was able to watch live, kind of get live Twitter reactions and things like that. I unfortunately didn't even get a chance to watch the majority of it until Sunday. I did watch the Black Eyed Susan and Preakness live. Everything else I didn't. So Aaron, more importantly, how was your weekend? I know by your name you're going to get it. We'll get into the Ronbauer thing in a little bit. I know that's the fantasy league, but how's your weekend? What was the general consensus around the Baffert thing on Twitter? And maybe if they got a chance to talk about it on NBC, because I didn't even get a chance to watch with sound. So anything that you could maybe share with us, and including myself, that I might have missed.
I was on the air a lot during the NBC feed, so I don't really know how they covered it. I've seen some Twitter people criticizing them, but Twitter right now is criticizing everything, so I'm not real sure exactly on that. Overall, I did talk to some non-Twitter folk, and they thought it was a fair, assessment that they did. The biggest thing is they can't come out and say, hey, this horse has been disqualified for the Kentucky Derby, because he hasn't. And so that's kind of makes it tricky for somebody reporting it to try to explain, well, he has a positive test, but he's not disqualified yet. And a lot of the normal people, I shouldn't say normal people, a lot of the casual horse racing fan, they can't figure that out. They can't wrap their mind around why this horse hasn't been disqualified, even though the test is positive. So that's always fun to explain. But overall, I thought it was a good weekend. I thought it was for the time that we're in. I thought the winner of the Preakness was good for racing and good for kind of your feeling of the sport of, hey, here's a guy that nobody expects has done anything wrong, and he won. So I thought that was good.
Yeah. For me, again, I kind of got a secondhand glimpse, so it was really tough to tell. And I promise anyone I'm not going to rewatch the entire NBC feed just to see if they talked about Bob Baffert. I'm definitely not going to do that. And then when I really tuned in 10 minutes to go with all these races, it was kind of just race action at that point. So you would have had to be there for a while. We'll get to my name first. Let's break some of that news if you didn't. And then, Aaron, we'll leave your name for a little bit later on when we talk about the Preakness. For me, Naira, if you guys might have missed it, I believe on Monday afternoon-ish, maybe Monday morning-ish, depending on where you are. They really brought the hammer down regarding two trainers. Obviously, Bob Baffert, we'll start there. Basically, no entries at all at Naira for the time being. I assume they're waiting for the result. But I wouldn't be surprised, even with the result, whatever the case may be, he might be looking at a no Saratoga summer. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe then at Belmont again come September. I'm just speculating. I have no idea. So no entries. You will not see him anywhere near Naira, anywhere near Belmont for at least this spring meet. And depending on when the test comes back, which I'll get into in a minute, potentially Saratoga as well. On the test front, apparently the test has not even been sent out. I saw that on Twitter yesterday. Essentially, that's just going to delay our process, which also means on a Naira front, it just back ends the timeline for him, right? It doesn't seem like he's that much in a hurry to get to Naira. He doesn't have a ton of horses that ship over, but the Travers, for a concert tour, for something like that. Aaron, I think Life is Good might have been he's just not going to run here. Concert tour is horrible, but nonetheless, and none of his horses are coming here anytime soon. The other front for Naira, Linda Rice gets a 3-year ban. I'm not going to get into every detail. Basically, she was acquiring information prior to other trainers, other owners, other connections. You list it. Basically of who is going to be in the race. What that essentially does, and I'll kind of sum it up in 15, 20 seconds, it'll provide a trainer what spot may or may not be easier. She's very, very big in the claiming ranks. As Aaron knows, those races come up a lot more often. So what you could do with that, essentially, if I have a horse that I might want to run on Wednesday, if I look at the condition book and I get this information, it's not going to be the toughest field, as opposed to potentially Friday or Wednesday or Friday to whatever it is. You could use that information to your discretion. Or if you have a horse coming off of a layoff, 3-4 month layoff, and I want to drop them into an easier spot, there are multiple ways you can go with that information. I don't have specifics. I don't think anyone does. But basically this information was acquired prior to everyone else, which essentially means she has a leg up. I think there was a $50,000 fine as well, I believe. Don't quote me on the number, but the 3-year ban is huge. So you will not be seeing Linda Rice probably until I graduate college in 3 years or so. So Naira really dropping the hammer. So I think that was important to get out there. Aaron, before we recap the Preakness weekend, anything you want to touch on that I just mentioned regarding Bobby B, Naira, which is whether it's Belmont or Saratoga, or Linda Rice and her 3-year ban?
Yeah, we'll see on Baffert. We'll see what the actual thing is once the test comes back. So as of now, it's just kind of wait and see on that front. I thought it was a good move. I think it's interesting that, what if Medina Spirit would have won? Would they have still done it? I think there's a lot of questions out about that, and that's fair. But it's probably the right thing to just take the wait and see approach on it. With Linda Rice, what you guys have to realize, because a lot of people are like, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. And I disagree. It is a big deal. I don't agree with like a 3-year suspension. I thought that was crazy. But it does give her a huge advantage, because you have to realize you enter horses to the racing office and you have no idea who's going into 99% of the race. Where you're going to have a knowledge of who's entering is stakes events, because it's public knowledge. Well, you're talking about the second race at Belmont, $25,000 claimer. You do not know who's going to enter. So if you have that knowledge before you get to enter your horse, that is a huge benefit. So it is a big deal. Don't think that, because a lot of people are like, well, Baffert's drugging horses and getting away with it. And Linda Rice, first of all, Linda Rice has done this. Like, that accusation was a long time ago. It's not like this was a swift punishment. This took years before they finally did something. And B, it's apples and oranges. It's still a big deal, though.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, you could be cheating in a lot of different ways. So, for example, in baseball, you can be doing the steroids thing, or you could be doing the Astros banging trash cans. It's still cheating. Maybe the 3-year punishment is a lot, but I think it's more about the times we're in, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you really try to crack down, unfortunately, people have to make an example of other people, and I think that's what happened here. Let's get to this past weekend regarding the racing in Baltimore, Maryland for Preakness weekend. And we'll just go through all the stakes races. We'll start on Friday, and then we'll end at the Preakness, and then we'll kind of shortly move into potential runners coming to the Belmont. So, Aaron, we'll start here. Race 8 on Friday afternoon. That was their first stakes race of the weekend. This was the Allaire DuPont Distaff Match Series. I don't know why the names are so long, but it was. We'll start with Spice is Nice, a solid price, but Spice is Nice sits the right trip. You could see some recency there at Keeneland, April 9th, and goes right on by. There was a duel down the stretch, but Spice is Nice really proved to be the best.
I think this is a horse looking forward. Okay, we know now that she can conquer this level. Can she jump up? Can she go to a place like Saratoga, and win the big races up there, or be competitive? That is what she's meant to do. That was her hype last year. She certainly did not live up to it. She's back this year. She definitely looking better. High purchase price, great breeding. Can she jump up and be that grade 1 type? That's what you're going to have to look out for her now and make that decision, because the next time she runs, she's going to be in that level of race.
Yeah, Aaron, to your point, the Alabama last year was dreadful. That was the last time we saw her last year. And then she came back to Keeneland, ran well. And then the Gulfstream Park Oaks, again, against Swiss Skydiver, was dreadful. So I think, to your point, that kind of Can she be better than a grade 3 winner? I guess we're going to find out. Let's talk about a few of the others, though. Horologist, not great. Kind of was sitting in the right spot, potentially. But she never fired. Mrs. Danvers, a decent horse, never fired. Lucky Strike. I mean, if you look at the odds, right? I mean, 1 through 3, it was really Spice is Nice, and then we got the Oaklawn Runner, get rid of what ails you. But this, I'm not. It kind of comes back to me. What does she really beat? Spice is Nice, because you look at the rest of this field, and the horses we thought would run well were pretty awful. Maybe Horologist wasn't awful, but not very good. It's going to be questionable to see where she moves forward because the field didn't turn out all that well.
No, that's the whole thing. Like the rest of the field was not great. So it's just a matter of, okay, what are you going to do when you step up? And like Dennis says, it was a breakout race. Well, I agree. It definitely was her best effort, but we've got to prove ourselves against better horses. And I think, with her connections and everything we talked about, you're going to see a shorter price on her, and it's going to definitely be a decision you got to make when she steps up to that big grade 1 company again.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Let's move on to what I potentially thought after watching the replays. This might have been the best and most exciting race of the weekend, and that's the Very One Stakes. I think this is like the second Very One Stakes, because there was one at Gulfstream or something that we were making fun of the name. This was for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. And Aaron, I remember I try to stay off of Twitter because that's where you kind of get your results beforehand. But I just remember the dude's Twitter account, so I'm not sure if that was you or Jared, but basically tweeting out that Caravel got the job done. Aaron, this was a race where on paper, this is where you thought you can get a price home, right? This is one where it's like, all right, here we go. I can break open this pick 4, pick 5, or potentially even a pick 3, depending on sequence. But Caravel does get the job done as a moderate favorite. Again, you're going to look at the equity. If you guys are watching this, you could see it was by a nose. It literally was a nose. You had no idea who really got the job done. But Caravel, the short price, gets the job done. And fantastic job by Florent Giroux getting the bob and getting the win here.
Yeah, this started like a sequence of crazy close finishes. And this one was really good. I don't know. Like, gotta go Mo. Man, when I was watching it live, I thought, oh, that horse got up and won this thing. Unbelievable. Yeah, Caravel gets the job done. Again, I think it's a situation where when these horses, if they spot them in these kind of races, they're going to be very competitive, and you're going to get this competitive finish because these horses are just this level and very competitive at this level. I don't think any of them are going to be able to move up off of this race. But man, yeah, this, like I said, this kicked off a string of like photo finishes, some of them more dramatic than others, and we'll get to a little bit later. But yeah, this one was incredible. And it truly did not know who won the race.
Yeah, no. And it always feels like in a turf race, you just feel like if you're further back, it's okay. In dirt races sometimes, and you could see where these horses were at the 3/16, and they weren't all right there. And to be honest, you can, again, if you didn't even watch the race, you could just look at the odds. They all ran pretty well. All the horses we gave shots to, and that's kind of what you want to see. Granted, you would have liked to see maybe a Dixie and Candyland or a Catch a Bid. It would have helped prices potentially. Well, not potentially, it would have. But nonetheless, it's not like you could look at Victory Kingdom and say, all right, awful, or Dixie and Candyland, awful. Like, they were all right there, and they all ran pretty solid races. These are all horses that if they were to drop to allowance level, they're going to be 4 to 5. So just as they should be based on this performance. Let's move, and as Aaron said, we'll move along, but a string of good finishes here. This is the Miss Preakness Stakes. You can see it again for 3-year-old fillies. This isn't the top rung 3-year-old fillies. This isn't Kentucky Oaks fillies or what we're going to see in the Black Eyed Susan when we get to that. But another great finish between Red Ghost and Euphoric. I kind of thought Euphoric was going to get there and stay there. And then Red Ghost, you could see in the stretch 3 by 3.5, and then just nabs Euphoric. I really thought the winning ride was done by Javier. That's a tough way to lose. I think he did everything right on her, but Red Ghost and Johnny V gets the job done, wins by a nose.
Yeah, this was another one. I thought Euphoric won the race. And I quickly started to realize, I was like, this isn't right. Like these bobs, I don't get it. The mirror is right before the finish line. And so by the time the next one came out, I'm like, all right, I'm not crazy. Like I'm not seeing these wrong. And then you look and it's like, oh, the mirror is actually right before the line. So where the actual finish line pole is not where the finish line is. So that made a difference here with this one. And another one, and you had 3 horses into the mix, because Joyful Cadence was right there as well. Another one, if I had to call that photo live, I would have thought Euphoric got it. This was like the bob of all bobs, right? But it's another race where they're good horses, but this is their level. I didn't watch this race and say, oh, we're ready for a class jump. This is their level. They're going to be fun to follow. The trips are going to usually make the difference in this level if they all run back. It's going to be similar type of thing every time they face each other.
Yeah, exactly, right. And sometimes horses that don't move up or down but stay in these types of grade 3 events or maybe a weak grade 2 or whatever, that's when you see a good race like this. Again, unfortunately, it's another short price. It was the favorite, even though it was a moderate one at that. Let's move on to the next race. That's race 11 right here. That's the Hilltop Stakes race for 3-year-old fillies as well. This one was another close one, but we were able to get some better prices home. This was won by Alda, finishing second with Seasons, who I try to avoid. I hate those turf runners at Woodbine, but Seasons ran well again. Was closing, and you can see Seasons was like last for early on. Again, though, Aaron, all the top odds were close, except for really Bubbles on Ice, who was dreadful at 8-5. But Alda, another neck winner. The crazy finishes just kept flowing on Friday afternoon.
I felt like Johnny V won this race. I thought it was a perfect ride on Alda, and that's not to take away from the horse. It was a very good effort. Seasons, oh man, if you back Seasons, I'm sorry, because this trip was tough, and it wasn't really all the jockey's fault. It had a bad start, and it kind of got into some trouble. Way too good to lose. Seasons ran way too good to lose, but like I said, Alda just kind of worked out the trip and got the job done. But I would look for Seasons next time out, especially if she's back in a similar spot to this, because that horse really ran way too good to lose this race.
Yeah, I just want to point out a few different things, 2 things on those 2 horses. Seasons hadn't run since the Natalama, or Natalma, I don't know how the hell you say it, last year at Woodbine. So not having run since September 20th, I think it was a 236-day layoff, which is a lot. Then Alda ran in that same race, let's call it the Natalma, finished second while Seasons finished third. Then comes to the Breeders' Cup filly turf, juvenile filly turf, is dreadful there, finishes 12th. And then comes back in a stakes race, but that was a sprint. Though both those horses figured, and the odds kind of indicated that. Those 2, this is the first time in a long time, Aaron, I could remember 2 Woodbine runners clearly being better than everyone else here. So maybe I have to retract some of that Woodbine turf hate. Maybe it's only a Gulfstream. I can keep it. But these 2 were much better. I'm not sure what happened to Bubbles on Ice. The comment was no rally, and that's pretty accurate. I mean, I don't think Javier did anything wrong. I just don't think she was really up for the task, which is it's tough now, right? Because you're in a non-graded stakes race. Based on this performance, it almost feels like an allowance spot is next, because there's no where do you go? It's very tough to find non-graded stakes races where the horses aren't moving up, right? Because usually you have allowance runners that are moving up, that are trending upward. She's trending downward, and if you drop her into an allowance, she's going to be a short price. So my guess is then her next start is she'll be unbettable, because if she's going to be a short price again, I'm not going to want her at this class. So that's going to be very interesting, because she probably will be a short price at this level, unless she moves up, which you can't move her up off of this effort. Let's move on to the Pimlico Special Match Series Stakes. This one wasn't as close, But Aaron, Last Judgment, boy, he was dominant. Really just took it gate to wire. Jose Ortiz did a fantastic job. Wasn't all that fast either. I mean, 23-4, then they go 47. I mean, it's pretty consistent. I was shocked. Fearless actually wasn't terrible. Lost ground, was wide throughout, but Last Judgment, Aaron, I wouldn't mind seeing him move up after a race like this.
The big key here, the track played to speed on Friday really heavily, and you kind of could handicap it that he was going to be out there by himself, and that's exactly what he did, and they just couldn't make up the ground. And then it was a situation where he had Fearless, who a lot of people loved, and I liked as well, but he's not an elite horse. He's just not. He's not bad, but he's not great. And he had kind of that wide trip, and he just didn't have the energy to make up any ground on a track that was favoring speed. So it was just kind of one of those things, you know. He got the right trip, and he definitely had enough left in the tank. Last Judgment. I thought Modernist was decent here. I think I was kind of on the fence. It's like, is he good, or is he just kind of Modernist and just kind of average? And he won a big race once, and now we all think he's great. I didn't think he was bad. I think you could move him on. I mean, I don't think he's a grade 1 horse, but I think a grade 2, grade 3, he could probably run in next and be okay. But yeah, I thought that the track and the way it played to speed really told the tale of this one.
I think Modernist is one of my favorite horses, and here's why. It has nothing to do with him. It has to do with his running style and what he runs to. In the Great Excelsior, in a race he's supposed to win, it's 8-5, he wins. The race before that, he's 7-2 in the Challenger at Tampa Bay Downs. That's probably like Tampa Bay Derby Day, I'm guessing, something like that. Finishes second to who? To Last Judgment. We can keep going back his consistency. The race before that, in the Peter Pan, those horses were just better. And yeah, 7-1 was probably a little short. But Country Grammar, Caro, Mystic Eye, those horses are just better. So my point is, with those horses, it's like they run to their odds and they run how they're supposed to run. Like, you could get a pretty good idea. And that's why I like horses like Modernist. You're never going to get a really, really short price ever. And you kind of know how they're going to run. And these are horses that you could include on the ticket, and they always make sense if they win, or always make sense if they run well. In the races before that where he didn't run well, Tis the Law, Dr. Post, Max Player, who was just overseas and didn't run well. I mean, he runs well against horses that he's supposed to beat, which you can appreciate sometimes. So I like using horses like Modernist. He always just is pretty consistent for the most part. Let's move on to the feature. This is the last race we'll be covering here. This was the George E. Mitchell, Black Eyed Susan Stakes, grade 2 for 3-year-old fillies. I'm not going to start with the winner, Aaron. I'll let you touch on the winner. Boy, was Beautiful Gift dreadful. Oh my goodness. This has to be the worst performance on Friday from out of the stakes runners. We'll get to some bad ones on Saturday as well. She was horrible. Absolutely horrible. And she never looked like she was going to win, right? When you're a favorite, you'd like, as the owners, the connections, the jockey, you'd like to try to pick a point in the race where you said, okay, he or she looks like they've got a shot. She never looked like she had a shot, which is really, really concerning. Based on this performance, she's an allowance runner. I mean, she's not any sort of stakes runner. So that's where my head was at. The grass is blue. To be honest, I really have no idea why that horse took all that money. Maybe that is the IRAD effect here, but the last horse she beat was Coffee Bar. I mean, I don't know. Adventuring made sense, but Adventuring was horrible. You're kind of left, Aaron, with Army Wife, who went on to win, and once she took the lead, it was kind of game over from there. She was much, much better than the rest of this field.
I think the real story here is the California females were just awful this year. They have been ever since they kind of went out and tried to prove themselves outside the state. They were just awful. And the New York females have been fantastic. Search Results almost wins the Kentucky Oaks, finishes a really good second. And then Army Wife, who was third last time out to Search Results, wins this race. So that NYRA circuit had a bunch of really good fillies, as it turns out. Army Wife, I thought it was a really good ride for Rosario. I thought Rosario had the worst of the worst and the best of the best on Friday and Saturday. At times, it's just like, I can't believe you just did that. And at times like this one, it's like that's why you can be the best jockey in the country at times. And he gave this horse a really good ride. But at the end of the day, the big takeaway is the NYRA circuit, man. Those fillies, they were very, very good. And if you want to add Malathot to that NYRA circuit now, because she certainly is, now that she's, now it's going to be spring and summer, and Pletcher's up there. Boy, they're going to be tough to beat up there. That's a good bunch of fillies on that circuit.
Yeah, it's going to be, and here's why it's even scarier, right? These fillies that run at Aqueduct is like, it's Aqueduct. But now they're proving themselves nationally. Mm-hmm. And now they're all the other ones, if you're coming from Gulfstream, or you're coming from Kentucky, or you're coming from California, now you're coming to New York. Good luck beating them when they're stabled up at Belmont and they're stabled up at Saratoga. Yeah. I think we're going to see utter domination from these three, which is Army Wife, Malathot, and Search Results. It's definitely up at Saratoga this year. That's going to do it for us on Friday. We're going to shift here to Saturday's card. And they started with a stakes race, Aaron, very early. It was the Sir Barton Stakes. And I remember we came on here and we basically said, yeah, you can use Hosier. Just understand that you're going to get a short price and that he's beatable. And shockingly enough, he was beatable. He was good, but the King Cheek was a horse that you probably thought would be good enough to win, and he was. I think a lot of people would have went 1-4 on their tickets, and it kind of made sense here as the King Cheek gets the job done.
Yeah, had a little bit of a pace advantage, and that was a big thing. But Hosier just, I would say blew by him, but got the jump on him, and as turning for home, it looked like Hosier was just going to pull away. And then the King Cheek re-rallies. I mean, look, it's a a 5-horse stakes field. None of them are any good. People were like, oh, look at Hosier. He couldn't finish the job. Hosier's not any good. Like that's the whole deal. And if we would have said on Thursday when we previewed the race, like, oh, Hosier can't lose. And then he loses and it's like, uh-oh. But to me, this was meaningless as far as the whole Bob Bapper narrative, because Hosier's just not that good. And he kind of ran as good as he could run. And I mean, they were way clear of everybody else. So it's just one of those things that he got beat. The King Cheek's not that good either, but it's just two horses that weren't very good hitting the wire together, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of summed it up. Hosier's just not very good. I mean, I'm still willing to say that at some point in his career, he wins a stakes race. I thought that coming into this one, and this was probably his best shot. So now I got to rethink that. Yeah. Maybe not. First of all, he'll never live up to the purchase price, to this, to that. Never. Okay, let's start there. But I still believe he could be a stakes winner. I'm not saying graded. I'm not saying it's a grade 1. I'm not saying he's, going to win the Travers, nothing like that. I just wouldn't be surprised that if down the road he gets lucky, because based on this, he's not horrible. Like, he's not great. I just don't think he's dreadful. To bet a horse at like this, though, at 3-5, now that's a dreadful move.
Yeah.
Bettors have to look at themselves and say that's horrible. But having said that, I don't think he's all that bad to where I can't use him somewhere down the road. And if he gets into a field that's also questionable, I still think he could win it. We're going to skip past race 2, which was an allowance race. We're going to move on to race 3 here, and that's the Chick Lang Stakes, grade 3. Aaron, this was arguably one of the more impressive races of the Saturday afternoon. That's Mighty Mischief going off as the second choice, taking this field gate to wire, gets the lead right from the start. Ricardo Santana honestly didn't even look like he was pushing the horse that far, but that's the way he runs, right? He gets the lead and goes. The only time he didn't do that was in his debut over a muddy track, and he still almost got the job done. Now, Aaron, can we be looking at one of the he's probably the best 3-year-old sprinter at this point in the country. I'd be willing to put him in that upper echelon. He was dominant here.
I'm not sure I would go that far because Jackie's Warrior is pretty good as well, also the Steve Asmussen barn. So I don't know if he's that level or not, but this was a very good performance. This was definitely one that got me excited because I definitely thought Mighty Mischief was better than Jackson Traveler. And it showed. It just took the race over, cruise control, easy win. I thought Jackson Traveler ran well for second. I think, Asmussen can do a lot of good things with these two going forward. I think he'll probably keep them separate going forward. But yeah, Mighty Mischief, I was at Oaklawn on April 10th when that horse won that allowance race on Arkansas Derby Day. And we all, the group I was with all kind of thought, yeah, that's kind of his next good sprinter. And he took the next step. We talked a lot of the Friday races is like, don't try to move those horses up. Obviously, Mighty Mischief does not fit in that category. He will be moved up next time out. I'll be shocked if it's not a grade 1 or grade 2 event. My guess would be races like the Amsterdam at Saratoga and then, to the Jerkins, perhaps we'll see. But this was a really, really good performance for Mighty Mischief.
Let me throw this point at you regarding Jackie's Warrior. At Saratoga, I probably prefer Jackie's Warrior because those races are 7 furlongs, like some of the better stakes races. That's where I want Jackie's Warrior. These shorter ones, like these 5.5, 6, that's maybe where I want Mighty Mischief. I'm not sure if that's accurate. I'm not sure if what I'm saying is right, but maybe that's a difference, right? Maybe Mighty Mischief just can't go more than 6. Maybe he'll flatten out. We know Jackie's Warrior can go longer than 7 if asked. We've seen that already. So the 7 furlongs might be better. I don't know if Jackie's Warrior is quite as fast going 6 as he is 7. Now, granted, you're going to slow down. Obviously, it's an extra furlong. But we know the distance is there more with Jackie's Warrior. That's still a massive question mark with Mighty Mischief. And based on his races and the way he's planned out, he's not going any longer than 6 furlongs, maybe 6.5. We know that by now. Jackie's Warrior still has the potential to run a mile. It's just not going to happen in Saratoga because you can't go a mile at Saratoga. It's like 1 1/8 or 7 furlongs, I believe, just the way the track is set up. So he will probably be going 7 furlongs. So we're going to see maybe I'd be shocked if they were to race against each other.
Yeah,
maybe though, maybe, and maybe the distance will be the deciding factor down the road. We're going to scroll forward. Here's race 4, which is an allowance race. We are not going to touch that. We'll keep going. Race 5 allowance. Not touching that. If you guys want to, you guys can watch on your own, but we have a lot of others to get to. Aaron, let's talk about significant races, right? And I don't mean significant as in like what we saw here, because I'm not sure of the field, but boy, is Mean Mary back? Oh, I mean, this was a pretty dominant effort. We saw Mean Mary multiple times, grade 1 level. A lot of people were like, is Mean Mary still that same horse leading into last year? And, you could talk about all the wins in a row. Was on a 4-race win streak. Loses in the Diana to Rushing Fall. Then loses to Adaria in the Breeders' Cup Fillies and Mare Turf. But maybe Mean Mary is back now, 5 years old. Maybe let's start with this campaign, and it was a dominant win, solid hand ride. I mean, she probably could have won by more.
Yeah, I thought it was a great spot to kick off her campaign this year, get her a win, get some fitness underneath her before she has to go up and face a much tougher competition. This was just the definition of class, just killing everybody else. She was so much classier than everybody else, and she just showed up, and they just took the race right to them. Just go to the front and forget it. I thought it was fantastic. Kicking off point, like I said, it wasn't a performance, so you're going to go, wow, this is amazing. But you know what she is and what she's capable of. So she'll step up next time out. Another one that definitely will be facing tougher, but will have a shot. She's proven time and time again, she can compete with the best. You mentioned getting beat by Rushing Fall. Well, there's no problem with that. And then, losing in the British Cup filly and mare turf, obviously, again, no issue there. So she'll probably go to New York as one of the main, older filly and mares to beat on the turf.
I want to get to this question real quick. Can someone explain how grade 3 horses with this horse, so Mean Mary, gets away at 115? The 115 is referring to the fractions. So we'll go over that now. My theory is that the field was so small that where Field Glorious was and Flighty Lady, you're just not going to tire each other out. That's my thought process on these. They get a lot slower when the fields are really short. Unfortunately for everyone else, it's a lose-lose situation, and here's why. And then Aaron can add on or detract from what I'm saying with this theory, this thought process. When you have a horse like that who's much better and they get the lead, if you attack, as in try to move up, and you're going to be last. If you wait, now that horse is just sitting on slow fractions and you're not going to be better. It's a lose. It's truly a lose-lose. How do you position yourself? If it's Mean Mary, who's a closer, okay, that's a little different, and Mean Mary is better. But Aaron, I just don't know what you're supposed to do as a rider of the connections when the horse is that much more talented and can get the lead in a small field. So you're just praying you could hold on and then try to maybe get them at the end. I just don't know what you do in that situation.
I'll keep it really simple because it's a really simple answer. The 2, the 3, and the 6 were not capable of going with Mean Mary, and the 1 was capable. And Jose Ortiz, instead of trying to press her, rode the race to try to get second place. That's all it really was. There was one horse that was capable, and they didn't ride the horse for speed. They clearly, it looked like to me anyway, in my opinion, they just said that we can't beat her, we'll ride for second. And they conceded the race. And when that happened, it took the 2, the 3, and the 6 completely out of it. They had no chance to win because they are reliant on speed up front. So when there wasn't any, they were basically on a race of their own to see who would get third because, Jose Ortiz rode Vigilante's way to get second.
And that kind of stinks, right? Because it's kind of like a blocker. We'll get to the Preakness, but it was pretty much a blocker for themselves in a way, right? Because now you're forced to pass another horse. Look, that's not the way we want to see a race, but when there's a lot of money on the line, I mean, the difference between second and fifth is huge. And if those were the instructions, Aaron's just coming up with a theory, and it's a good one. You can't argue what he's saying. Neither can we confirm. None of us can confirm that. But if those were the instructions given to Jose Ortiz, he did it masterfully. If those were, he couldn't have done anything else because he wasn't beating. You got to realize you're not beating Mean Mary. So now your fight is for second. Unfortunately, how do you get to second? This might have been the best way to do it.
I think I'm just gonna just to harp on it for a second more. I think the problem is, and I don't want to put words into the commenter's mouth, but when I looked at the race, I certainly thought 1 could press the 5 enough to set it up for the 3 or the 6. We might see an upset here because the 1 on paper had more natural speed and drew the rail, as the comment points out. I get why you would be frustrated. I almost went a different way in that race, but I just, in the back of my mind, I kind of, in the end, was like, I'll think like kind of what you were saying, Ricky. Yeah, the 1 does have more natural speed, but the 5 will probably go out there and outclass that horse. So I think the 5 will win the race. But I get it if you handicapped at the 1, and that is would go out in front and try to pressure. And that is definitely one of the frustrating things about racing. But it is what it is. He rode for second. I mean, that's all you could say.
Yeah, exactly. We can't confirm nor deny, but it looked like that was the way. And if those were the instructions, and again, he did it well. Yeah. Let's move on to the James W. Murphy Stakes here for 3-year-olds. Again, not the upper echelon 3-year-olds, but still stakes runners or high allowance runners. Wow. TD Dance. So let's put TD Dance down in my book as the most impressive stakes winner. Again, not most impressive in terms of who he beat, but just the dominance, right? I mean, this horse belongs in a graded stakes race at this point. Now, where graded? Is it grade 2, grade 3? I don't think he's grade 1. But grade 2 or grade 3? Yeah, he could win if he's going to repeat this. I mean, he goes off at 4 to 5. He had to work hard between, and he just got to go from Javier, and this horse was absolutely gone. And once they got to the top of the stretch, it was kind of like, all right, this race is over. One thing to point out, Outador did not run, so maybe Outador is a legitimate grade 1 type of horse. So we kind of would have seen, in my book, we at least would have seen what TD Dance is capable of. It's interesting, Aaron. We don't even know what Outador's best surface is. I think everyone's still trying to figure it out. But we know Outador's a really good, great, I think definitely a grade 1 turf runner, maybe not a grade 1 dirt runner. I think, again, we don't know. But TD Dance here, how good was he? 4 to 5, just wins with ease.
Honestly, this is the race from a wagering perspective that I screwed up. This is my only regret of the whole day. I loved TD Dance. I had TD Dance on top when Outador was still in the race. And so when he scratched, I was one that was very sad because I thought TD Dance is getting ready to run huge here. I didn't bet a win. I went with exotics. I thought, oh, that price is too low. But you know what? When you go with exotics and you miss, and you should have bet a win and you would have hit, that price isn't too low. The price is just right, because minus 18 is a lot worse than making $40 or $50 on a win bet. So this was the only race I had to regret on. And again, handicapping perfect, betting awful, and we talk about it a lot. It's two different aspects of the game. Both are equally as important. I had the right horse, and I should have just bet this horse to win. Just a dumb move on my part, but I was happy with the handicapping portion because, yeah, the horse ran well. And listen, another horse, Saturday is the theme is this horse is going to probably move up in class after this win.
Yeah, Friday, maybe not so much. Saturday looks like a lot of runners are going to move up, and another runner that's going to move up. I mean, we were maybe a little too skeptical on Chub Wagon. We're talking about the Run Happy Skip It Stakes. I think I said that right. For fillies and mare 3-year-old and upward, and I'm not sure what you do with her now because she still stays undefeated. This is this has to be Guadalupe Preciado's. Is this his best horse in the barn? It has to be. I don't know. Again, I mean, this horse is literally undefeated. You know what the crazy thing is, and we'll talk about it a little bit if you want. I'm just looking at it from, if this was Todd Pletcher, this horse is already in a grade 1 event. Mm-hmm. But because it's Guadalupe, it kind of seems that he's bringing this horse along, which really stinks because at what point in any horse's career are you going to be 5 for 5 and you're just making your second stakes race and none of them are graded? If that's Todd Pletcher, Chad Brown, they're harping on this horse to be in a grade 1. So that's the only thing that came to mind. Granted, she only won by 2 lengths, but we've got to see this horse at better. Aaron, she beat a horse in Casual, and Casual is run against legitimate horses in Kamari, Edgeway, Frank's Rocket, and it was kind of like handily. So I want to see her in her graded stakes next time out. What do you think?
This was huge. I thought this may have been the most impressive effort of the whole day. Well, aside from Ronbauer, who we'll get to, that was amazing. But Chub Wagon, holy hell, like that horse just exploded. And my worry with Chub Wagon is, okay, you're facing tougher competition this time than you have been. And the pace is going to be pretty hot. And you're always on the lead. I don't know. This horse showed she can sit off the pace, no problem whatsoever, and still explode down the lane, just like she was on the lead and exploding down the lane. I was super impressed. And so now you have a horse that, hey, if the pace is hot, we can trust that she can sit off. If there's no pace in the race, she'll just cruise on the lead and take them gate to wire. I thought this was awesome. I think Chub Wagon is going to be a really big-time horse, and I'm with you. I think graded stakes, you got to send her to something after that. I mean, that was impressive.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say what he should do, but this horse is 6 for 6. Hasn't lost, just won a race against a horse that has run in graded stakes races before, against some of the best older sprint filly and mare sprinters in the country. How do you not move this horse up? I think I'd be shocked if she's not in something of a better quality next time out. And a race that should probably be pretty good. Let's move on to the Jim McKay Turf Sprint Stakes. These big fields on going 5.5, 6 furlongs, 5 furlongs. These shorter races, they get kind of crazy, and this one did. This, Aaron, this is the type of race, right? Why Joel Rosario is known for being on the turf. Just gets this horse from the 11 spot in a perfect position, sits right there, and just tips out. Just gets the right ride. But the race, I think, from Fire Crow was won at the beginning to get this horse from the 11 and then get him into that prime spot. Again, this is what, to your point earlier, this is why Joel Rosario has the ability to be the best rider in the game if he's a lot more consistent. And he was fantastic here. Fire Crow almost 10-1.
Yeah, this was crazy. And I'll be the first to say I did not have Fire Crow. So this was tough. And I did have the second, the third, and the fourth place finishers. So that's even tougher when that happens. But all credit to that horseman. That was just a massive performance. And if you saw his name and you're like, yeah, where did I remember that horse? He's been running on the dirt against, horses like Whitmore and CZ Rocket, and I looked at it when I handicapped him as, okay, he's got some talent, but he's not great. And I think they're just kind of throwing him on the turf and, well, let's just hope that, he likes it and maybe runs well. I kind of looked at him as a pace presence, and that's about it. And by the way, a ton of pace in the race. And we've seen this horse fold in the past. No, he just kept on going. No problem whatsoever. So ton of credit to him. A track record, by the way. So another thing just to add on. And yeah, I mean, you're right. Rosario, nice ride. And this horse just showed up and ran huge. And yeah, the horse totally killed me out of everything.
I had 1, 2. I used Fire Crow. I had 1, 2, and 3. And to your point, you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm sorry, and I don't care what surface these horses are running on. The horse Flagstaff, CZ Rocket, and Whitmore are beating all of these horses. And I still harp back to, just because you finished 5th, I forgot what it was, like the Saratoga Derby or the Belmont Derby, Belmont Invitational. We were over the summer, and I was like, we're going to look at that race as I forgot what race it was that we were on. You got to look at the last race with CZ Rocket and say, that was just much better. That was the Hot Spring Stakes. That's going to go down, I'm guessing, is the best edition of the Hot Spring Stakes I'm ever going to see. And I'm 24. To have those horses in that race, and Fire Crow, Aaron, you talk about it, I talk about it. If you show speed on the dirt, that speed's going to get amplified when you go to the turf. Fire Crow comes to the turf. The last time this horse is on the turf was against Texas Wedge, a horse Aaron knows very, very well. A long time ago, gets back to the turf. All the other horses, the other horse that he really had to contend with was the Critical Way, and the Critical Way wasn't bad. The Fire Crow is just better, and the Class 1 here. Fire Crow does make sense, though. So anyone who's complaining, this horse probably shouldn't have won, but it's not an impossible horse. This wasn't like a So Street or a Grab the Gold. Like, this horse made sense, and you could look at the class. So if you were able to get that one home, that was a nice score as well. The Critical Way was good. Completed Pass was good. Hollis, not so much. Let's move on, though, to the next stakes race. That's race 11, the Maryland Sprint Match Series. So this is 3 olds and up. Now we're going to the dirt. Another good performance. Special Reserve beats a lot. I thought this was, Aaron, on paper, I thought this was one of the more competitive fields. Special Reserve didn't make it out to be, kind of drifted out a little bit at the 16 pole, but once he was able to get the lead, he was also gone.
Yeah, I mean, and I think back to kind of your statement in the last race, the class mattered here, right? This horse had lost the Flagstaff, but it was close last time out at 7 furlongs. The race was 6 furlongs. He may have beaten Flagstaff. So I thought Special Reserve was kind of an easy one to get to. I did think Strike Power would win, though. I picked Strike Power on top and Special Reserve second, so I just got them flip-flopped. Used them both, so it didn't really matter in that regard. But, Strike Power, I really thought he had enough speed to kick clear. And what I mean by that is at the half-mile pole to not be ahead, but be ahead by a length or two, to where it would be tougher for the horses coming to get him, to catch him. wasn't the case. He just couldn't hit clear. I thought he ran hard. I thought he ran well, really, but Special Reserve was just much, much better. So full credit to the winner there. I'm frustrated for the guide. We had this race really pegged, but we did not get the third place horse, so we better try. And another bad bet, good handicapping bad bet. We didn't have Frosted Grace on the ticket, and that horse ran well to get third at 16-1. So I'll give the top three credit there.
Yeah, there were again. We can't talk about Breezy Gust at all. The horse got pinched and pulled up. I have no idea what happened to Yodel. I used that horse. I thought this was going to be fast. The horse can close. I really don't know what happened there. Locky with Horatio Caramanos, not really that good. Maybe the pace on the inside got to him. There were a lot of bad performances. But the interesting thing is, and this is why I didn't love Strike Power. I like Special Reserve a little bit more, and here's why. When you kind of look at Strike Power, he does have the class. I got to go a far ways back to get to a win. It kind of seems, Aaron, right, like he moves up to these stakes races, and he's not quite good enough. But he's good at the allowance level, so it's kind of like he's very, very tough to handicap. I wouldn't mind Strike Power at a non-graded stakes race because the last time he was on it, it was in the King Cotton at Oaklawn. That was over a sloppy track, but all the other stakes races were graded. So he has one non-graded. That was over a sloppy track. I'm not going to fault him for that. The other ones are just against much better, and he's not going to be good enough. And here we see him again. G3, I just don't know if he's good enough, maybe in a weak field, but this wasn't a weak field. I thought this was solid. So we'll see what happens with him moving forward. Let's go to race 12, the Dinner Party Stakes, one of the best stakes race names in the country. Grade 2 for 3-year-olds and upward, going 1 1/16 miles. I'm going to save my comments for last because I want to hear what you have to say first. Basically, Some Like It Hop Brown just sits the right trip, gets 3 wide. Gone, wins by a length, but I'll share my comments after you go.
Yeah, and I think Some Like It Hot Brown, number one, showed the class, right? Because Flying Scotsman was entered in the race as a rabbit, but a good horse does exactly what Some Like It Hot Brown did here. Just let the rabbit do whatever. I'll just sit behind. That horse is ignorant. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, that horse is just, it shouldn't even be in the race. He's just out running his own race. He's going to fade. So then all of a sudden, I'm sitting in second, and I'm way ahead. So I'm basically going gate to wire anyway for the horses that are really in the race. That's exactly what he did, and they couldn't catch him. The 7 falls out of it like he's supposed to. Some Like It Hot Brown just sat in second and ran his race, and they couldn't catch him. It was a really good performance. I am super, super pissed at number 5, Sacred Life. Like, on my shit list, horrible, 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 because we had an exacta 1 over the 5 in the guide. And we turn it for home. Some Like It Hot Brown is cruising. And it's like, okay, he's got it. The 5, Sacred Life, is seemingly making a big move. And the only thing we're worried about is, well, I hope Sacred Life doesn't pass Some Like It Hot Brown. Because he's definitely getting second. And that horse just stopped. I couldn't believe it. So I am mad at Sacred Life for not getting up for second, but Some Like It Hot Brown did the job, man. That is a sign that a horse is classy when there's another horse entered in the race to mess with you, and you're just like, let him do whatever, And that's a really classy performance by Some Like It Hot Brown.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. I mean, the last time we saw him, like, Some Like It Hot Brown just seems to run an unbelievable race. Or he's dreadful. Saturday, he was good, right? And when he's good, he's capable of beating a really good field. When he's not good, he finishes where English B finished, which is 7th. So he's just very tough to handicap. The problem is he's going to have races where he goes off, for example, like the Fort Lauderdale, when he loses to Largent. He's 5-1, he finishes 9th. That's going to happen where in the Turf Classic at Churchill Downs last year, loses to Digital Age Factor. That's 9-1. I mean, it's unbelievable. You look at his PPs, it's like 7th, 8th, 9th, and then he's got a 1. like for a first place. It's unbelievable the fact he could be so bad and so good. I'm sure trips had a lot to do with that as well. For me, though, I do want to talk about Flying Scotsman. I want to give a shout out to Ricardo Santana, and here's why. I think that horse actually wanted to go on by 6, 7, 8 lengths. And the fact he was even able to hold that horse in to kind of keep the race close. The horse was 30-1. People, I know, I saw on Twitter, a lot of people said Ricardo Santana did a horrible job by letting that horse get to the lead. He had a pretty good grip of that horse. That horse was just going to run off regardless of who was riding. Like, that horse just wanted to go. That horse thought it was a 1 furlong race. And there's nothing Ricardo could have done about that. Mind you, the horse is almost 30-1. So I don't know why people were really hating on Ricardo. And again, Ricardo probably should have finished last. The fact that he didn't, I think, is a true testament. Yeah, there were some other horses that, like Talk or Listen and Midnight Tea Time that picked up. But what was Ricardo supposed to do? This horse gets to the lead. Again, this horse would have wanted to win, to go on to lead by 20 if it was up to him. He just doesn't, that's just not a horse that wants to rate. So no. I don't know what people were talking about. I don't think Ricardo's going to tell you that was the best ride of his life, but I don't think he did anything wrong. It's the horse that wanted to go off.
If you want to get mad at somebody about that horse, get mad at whoever is spotting the horse. So the horse 4 races back, goes gate to wire and an allowance optional claimer. Okay. That's about where that horse belongs. Grade 1, grade 2. That's the next 3 starts. Okay, you want to try a grade 1 after going gate to wire? That's cool. You got 9th. Maybe try something different. No. We'll go right back to another grade 1 at Keeneland, no less, in the freaking Maker's Mark, which is one of the best turf mile races in the country every year. Got 9th. Now we're entering in a grade 2 dinner party on Preakness Day. Got 6th. The horse doesn't belong. What? And another thing, what riding style would you like Ricardo to do on a horse that only has one thing? Go gate to wire. The horse has no interest, like you said, in doing anything. There's nothing he could have done. He rode probably 2 directions as well. So
yeah, this is what I tell a lot of people before we get to the Preakness, and we'll spend some time on that. If you want to just give an understanding of where the horse belongs, and this is not taking shot at jockeys, Aaron, I'm just going to read you some of these jockeys that he's had. He had Corey Lannery in the last race before this one. The other riders in there, Irad Ortiz, Tyler Gaffalione, Javier Castellano, Joel Rosario, Florent Giroux, Luis Saez, John Velasquez, Junior Alvarado, and Corey Lannery. One of those riders I would put Corey Lannery ahead of. No. It's a pretty good indication that Corey Lannery, who's pretty good, was on the worst horse. That's why he finished last. So you don't have to read the past performances. Just take a look at the odds. And if you know anything about the riders, that'll give you an indication if the horse belongs. The fact that Corey Lannery couldn't beat one horse, maybe. Some Like It Hot Brown finished 7th in that race. Some Like It Hot Brown comes back to win here. So I don't know what people are saying about Ricardo Santana after that one. Let's move on, Aaron, to the reason why you have your name as Ronbauer. That's because Ronbauer won the Preakness Stakes, grade 1 for 3-year-olds. I will let you go here, and I'll just tack on or detract. This is your time to shine, as I will say. I know you are now elevated to 2nd, I believe, in the fantasy league. I texted you what you thought of Ronbauer, and you gave me some ridiculous PR statement thinking you actually own the horse. But nonetheless, what did you think of his performance? We'll go down through the other horses in a minute, but what did you think of his performance? For a horse, to be honest, we thought this was an open race. Like, it wasn't maybe going to be won by a favorite. But no one had this horse as the horse to do it. So kind of walk me through what you were thinking going into the race with the fantasy league maybe, and kind of how Ronbauer won.
I really thought he was a good 3rd place horse, like a really solid chance to get 3rd. Maybe he gets 2nd if a couple just don't show up. But when I just never would have thought it. And hats off to those that had him. In the win spot, I think that's really just incredible handicapping. And I couldn't get there. The horse had just never shown that he was good enough to actually win this race. You go back to the Bluegrass. He ran well for him, right? But he was 6 lengths behind anything. You even go back to his win at Golden Gate, which I know is on synthetic. He was all out to catch a filly, and the time of that race didn't come back very well. He'd been beaten, anytime he faced a good horse, he'd been beaten by it. He was traveling really well. They go to the turn, and I'm watching Midnight Bourbon, and I'm thinking, oh my God, Midnight Bourbon is going to beat Medina Spirit. This is going to be great, because you could tell Midnight Bourbon was traveling the best. And Ronbauer was tracking in third, and I thought, okay, I'm thinking fantasy-wise here. He's going to get third because nobody else is moving. Maybe Medina Spirit will just quit, and Ronbauer gets second, and that'd be great. All of a sudden, you turn for home, and it's like, okay, Midnight Bourbon, I'm not even watching Medina Spirit anymore because Midnight Bourbon's put him away. And what do you do when you have a speed horse or a horse on the lead in the stretch? You look back to see who's coming.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw the 6, Ronbauer, I said, oh, the race is over. I mean, as soon as you got, whether it was you spotted him right away because you were watching him the whole time, or whether you bet the 5 or even the 3, and then you scan back, as soon as you picked him up, it's over. He was traveling that much better than everybody else, like a cannon in the stretch. This horse poured it on. He was unbelievable. It was the best performance by a 3-year-old colt I've seen all year. I mean, we've talked about, hey, these horses, this crop, they don't like to pass anybody. Ha! This horse said, no, I actually am going to pass you like you're standing still. It was an awesome performance by Ronbauer.
Yeah. I was thinking about the best performance. I hate to say it, Essential Quality's 4th place finish is still one of the best performances in the Derby of the year. The fact he finished 4th after being Y. But no, from a win perspective, I didn't have much to say because I don't want to take anything away from Ronbauer, but boy, does this field look like crap. And it has nothing to do with his performance because
here's the deal. I agree. And the field not being very good obviously aided the win, but he looked worse than the field, like 3 or 4 of these in the field coming into
absolutely.
the race.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not taking anything away from him because the performance was good. He's getting an A+ for the performance, but the field, this field would be lucky to get a C+.
Yeah.
Like as a collective group. Well, let's go through some of the, I thought Midnight Bourbon ran an A-. I thought he was pretty good. Maybe that's being a little generous, B+. I thought Ronbauer just ran unbelievably. And Midnight Bourbon, with this performance, I think wins a solid amount of Preakness races.
I mean, as a person who bet and picked Midnight Bourbon, I have no complaints.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I agree. In my opinion, he turned for home. I thought he was going to win. And I thought, well, I mean, I couldn't have handicapped that from Ronbauer. So I was pretty happy with Midnight Bourbon.
Right. And we'll finish up by just going through a few of these here. We'll go through all the horses. Medina Spirit, I actually thought Medina Spirit wasn't half bad. I would give him a B- to a B. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't horrible. I didn't think he was dreadful.
A lot of people were like, oh, there's no drugs. That's what happens. No, I think that's just him. That's him. He was inside of a monster, like compared to size-wise. But Midnight Bourbon, a big horse. And I thought Irad did a really good job of pressing him on the rail when they turned for home, maybe intimidated him a little bit. And Medina Spirit running back, he's lightly framed on 2 weeks rest. He probably just got tired. Yeah.
Makimi and mine, we talked about this horse. I mean, Aaron and I both kind of like him. And for him, I think he ran an A. Overall, he probably ran a B- C+.
Yeah.
He's not bad. This horse needs like 3-mile races. We got to find him a 3-mile race somewhere. This horse, it's unbelievable. He's last. This horse must not realize when they break from the gate you're supposed to run. I've never seen anything like it. Crowded Trade, I'm giving that horse finished 5th. I'm giving that horse a C-. I mean, I don't know what that was from him. Unbridled Honor, C-. France de Godaina ran an A+. The fact that horse didn't finish last, that horse deserves an A+. That I don't know what that horse was doing. Risk taking, D. I mean, awful. I don't know. I kind of like that horse. Concert Tour, an F minus minus minus. I don't know what the heck that was. Aaron, this horse was going to be the favorite in the Kentucky Derby, what, 2 months ago? 2.5 months ago? This horse couldn't beat me. Can't beat a standing tree, as I like to say, this horse. Dreadful. I we'll get to Concert Tour a little bit. And Ram, the fact that this horse took money is an embarrassment. I'm sorry. If you bet Ram to win, you deserve to be embarrassed, and you deserve this performance. Let's go with Concert Tour for a minute. We'll wrap up with Concert Tour. Look, Aaron, from my end, from my perspective, he looks like an allowance horse. It's really sad, but he looks like an allowance horse. He beat one horse in Ram, and I'm sorry, Ram should have been higher odds than everyone in this field, which I guess he was, in France de Gouina. But the fact he was even 16-1 is an embarrassment. So I don't know what you do with Concert Tour at this point. Like, he's clearly not a grade 1 runner. Maybe he's a grade 3, but I was embarrassed. Everyone was watching Ronbauer, Midnight Bourbon, Medina Spirit. You know who I was watching? Concert Tour. Just like I watched Uncle Chuck. Remember Uncle Chuck and the Trappers? I was like, there he goes. Another horse passed him. Another horse passed him. I wasn't watching the winner because I knew Ronbauer was gone. I didn't need to watch that. I just kept watching Concert Tour get passed and passed and passed. Oh, my gosh. He is – and if Ram wasn't so bad, he would have lost then too.
I guess it's just a situation, for whatever reason, this horse has just lost whatever he had, because you fast forward or rewind back to the Rebel, he had the look. And man, this was dreadful. He got bumped out of the gate, and then it was like he was in no man's land. Like, either send him or don't, but don't just hang him out wide the whole way around. It wouldn't have mattered. He had no run, but yeah, he just showed up with nothing. It was a horrible race for Concert Tour. I mean, what else can you say? I don't know what you do with him. Probably lay him off for months and then try again.
And that's the thing, right, Aaron, where it's like, I kind of want to blame Mike Smith for not giving him a good ride, but there was no one who was getting anything out of that horse on that day. Like, that's like, you know what it's kind of like? Jalen Suggs, who didn't have a good game for Gonzaga, they weren't beating Baylor,
right,
in the championship. Like, it wouldn't have mattered if Jalen Suggs had 40. It wouldn't have mattered. Mike Smith was pretty bad, but Concert Tour was so bad that if he was given a 5-length lead, he might have finished 8th.
Right.
So it just wouldn't have mattered. The lesson learned from the Preakness was to immediately toss all the Aqueduct shippers. Yeah. Whether from the turf or the dirt, the competition there was pathetic. Yeah, on the male side, it wasn't great. Yeah. I got to be honest. I'm looking at Chad Brown. Chad Brown had highly motivated. All right, wasn't very good then. Then he has crowded trade and risk taking. Not very good here either. I'm kind of looking for a Chad Brown 3-year-old to step forward. Which I think he's one of the best overall trainers in the country. I might want to change that tune to one of the best turf trainers, if not the best turf trainer. I'd be willing to say he's the best turf trainer in the country. This was pretty bad. The 2 horses that are coming off Aqueduct races, I'm not sure which one was worse. I mean, they both were awful.
The risk-taking entry was odd to me because the horse is the morning line favorite in the Peter Pan last weekend. So when he scratched, I thought, well, he must think that horse is going to come up here and run pretty well, right? Like, that would be your thought. Yeah, it's a much tougher spot. And
you would think.
And I'm not saying I expected that horse to win, but you expected him to maybe run like Keep Me in Mind type of race. He picks up his feet at some point.
Well, that's why I gave Keep Me in Mind like an A- for the way he ran compared to his. Yeah. I'm talking about compared to expectations. Mm-hmm. Keep Me in Mind. Aaron and I talked about it. Like, that horse needs to run like 26 miles to get the best performance out of him.
And as a handicapper, you know how to handicap him because he's consistent. You know.
Yeah, and that's why I talked about a horse like Modernist. I love those horses because I know when he's properly placed, he's going to run well, and when he's a little bit over above his head, he's not going to shock me. Okay, fine. I know what he is. That's why some like it Hot Brown is tough to handicap because when he's in a good spot, he's going to be a short price, and you're hesitant. When he's a decent price or an 8-1 or a moderate price, he probably finishes 7th. So that's a horse that's impossible to handicap. Modernist, Keep Me in Mind, they're pretty true. And that's all we wanted as bettors or handicappers or horse fans. Real quick, tell us where you are in your fantasy league standings or points-wise, whatever you want to do. I know that's your name, so you might as well kind of tell us where you're positioned now.
Yeah, so in the official standings right now, I am in second. I'm 20 points behind going into the Belmont, and I do have Ronbauer. So I've got a big shot here. Now, here's the good news. If when the DQ happens, I'm actually in first. So that's, let's see what happens with the DQ. That's going to be the big thing there, whether I get first or second going into the Belmont. But yeah, I'm in a great spot. I was afraid I might finish last most of the year, and then Ronbauer gets an upset, and so now I'm right there with a chance. So I'm excited. I think my buddy Jared and I are going to battle it out because he's got Hot Rod Charlie, and you see by the standings there, he's not too far behind. And then John White has Rebels Romance and Known Agenda, John and Ryan, I should say. And so they're big contenders as well. So it'll be a battle between those three. Paul's ahead, but he only has Promise Keeper. So, if Promise Keeper pulls an upset, maybe he gets a shot.
Well, if he loses those points on Medina Spirit, that would be a little tough also.
That's going to be the problem. He'll drop down 96 points if Medina Spirit gets disqualified, therefore almost out of it. Like Promise Keeper is going to have to win for him to win the league.
Yeah. Who would be the favorite at the Belmont? And then the follow-up is Essential Quality. I would be very shocked if Essential Quality is not the favorite.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, too bad Malathaat's not going to be there. Malathaat, they've already pointed to what race? Is it not the coach? Is it coaching club for her?
Yep.
Yeah, so she's done. We won't see her at all. Coaching club is up at Saratoga, so we're not going to see her at all at Belmont unless something changes. But that I've never seen a trainer say we're pointing here. We're going to roll her back before then. That pretty much means I'm guessing she's off for the rest of May. She won't even see a track, and then she'll start getting some warm-ups and things. I don't know when the coaching club is, but it's got to be at least 2 months away because Saratoga's middle of July. So the coaching club, even if it's the first weekend, I don't know when it is. I haven't looked. But we're not going to see her. So, yeah, Essential Quality is probably going to be your favorite. And, again, based on the way he ran in the Derby, he should be. Because if he's not 4 wide, that horse wins. I don't care what anyone says. I don't really know who's in for the Belmont. I don't know if we have a true picture yet. Probably this time next week we'll have a better picture because it's still 3 weeks away. It'll be 2 weeks away at that point. But we know Essential Quality. Aaron, do we know of anyone else who's like completely signed on? We know Malathaat's not running.
Yeah, a Promise Keeper, Known Agenda, Ronbauer, Hot Rod Charlie, Essential Quality. Those are kind of your big names. Keep Me in Mind, I think, will be in the race.
Keep Me in Mind is going to run. The Keep Me in Mind will be in the Travers. Keep Me in Mind is going to be in everything. Well, just any grade 1 that's got good 3-year-olds, we're throwing him in there. Hey, and you know what? If he runs 4th, he's still picking up checks.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. Nothing wrong with that.
Midnight Bourbon also possibly. He's another one I think he'll run everywhere. And pace is going to make this race. It always does in the Belmont. But at first glance, this is not anything official. No official pick. First glance, I think Essential Quality is going to finish second. I think somebody will beat him. I just think that's the story of the horse. He reminds me a lot of Tacitus. And if you remember the Belmont, not his resume, I'm talking about coming into the Belmont. Tacitus was like, oh yeah, this is his race. This is the one he can't lose. And he ran well, but he got second. And I feel like Essential Quality is a favorite we can beat. But again, we'll see what the pace looks like. We'll see how it all shakes out when we actually get the entries.
For what it's worth, which my opinion doesn't mean anything here with this final statement, I'm praying Essential Quality comes away with a win like this, because he does really deserve the win. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at Tacitus and it's like, oh, he deserves that win. Or you look at Essential Quality and it's like, oh, he deserves that win. So he really does, because again, that Derby performance, I'm giving him an A+. And I thought he was better than Medina Spirit. I thought he was better than Hot Rod Charlie. I thought he was better than all of them. And he finished 4th because he was wide the whole time. Is there any news on Rock Your World?
He had a workout, so he is back on the work tab. I thought the Belmont would be a really good spot for him before what happened in the Derby.
That's what I thought too. So who knows? Someone says, I hope to see Mandaloon. Yeah, I wouldn't mind another big name in there, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
I haven't seen his name mentioned for this race, but I'm 100% with you. I'd love to see Mandaloon in the race, but I haven't seen his name mentioned. Yeah, I would love to see Rock Your World in the race, but I doubt that's going to happen.
I'm praying Joel Rosario gets the next mount on Rock Your World. Oh, I'm praying. I am praying. I'm praying. I would bet that horse if he was in a claiming race. If with Joel's on it, because I loved Rocky. I still love Rock Your World. Never got a shot. That's going to do it for us, though. Congratulations to Aaron, who you could see here as second, but easily could be first. There might be an asterisk next to Paul's name. We shouldn't say there's an asterisk now, because technically this is the way it stands. Either way, Aaron's in a prime spot. I would make Aaron, based on what we know, I'd make him even money to be the favorite of this. We're not going to get a result before the Belmont, unfortunately. But Aaron's the horse that just swung 4 wide, and Paul's slowing down tremendously. Does Medina Spirit test positive? Who knows? But it seems like it's going to take a while. That's going to do it. Weren't you pissed at Rock Your World, Jockey? Yes. I went on like a 10-minute rant on Joel Rosario, that saying that was his worst ride I've ever seen, and arguably the worst ride I've ever seen. He gave that horse no chance. And I haven't seen him since. But
what sucks for you is that happened, and then you pick Concert Tour, and it's like, wow, that has been what a shitty Triple Crown. And then, but you look at me, I picked Essential Quality, and it's like you leave the Derby going, well, shit. He ran how I thought he would, and then you leave the Preakness and you go, well, shit, Midnight Bourbon, he did what I thought he was going to. So I don't know which one's more frustrating. It's like, what hurts worse, losing by 1 or losing by 100, and it's just a blowout. You just throw it out.
I think your way is worse mentally, because it's like, I'm so close. For me, I've always said, like, if I'm playing a baseball game, I'd rather lose 12-1 than 6-5.
Yeah.
Like it's like, all right, in the 3rd inning when it's 8-0 and I know the game's over, I'd rather lose that way as opposed to losing in the bottom of the 9th. That's just me. Maybe other people don't want to feel like that. I still think that is to this point, that is the worst ride I've ever seen Joel Rosario give anyone. I'm not going to get into the connections pulling Alberto Rispoli. I'm not doing that again. But that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back at Belmont tomorrow. We got to start ramping up this Belmont stuff. We're just a few weeks away now. The word on the street is that Aaron Halterman and Jared Welch will be at the Belmont as of now. I know they're working on that. I believe a flight is booked for them. They're not going to drive. These two would drive across the Atlantic Ocean if possible, but they're going to fly. They'll be staying on Long Island. So hopefully, maybe by some miracle, I can get there too. We're trying to work on it. But that is going to do it for us today. We'll see you guys tomorrow at Belmont. Good luck to your playing. I know Dennis chimed in with a comment early on. We've got Finger Lakes, Belterra, Canterbury, opening day at Emerald. Emerald starts at like 2 a.m. It's like 11 at night there. They're late. They're very late for me. I'm usually sleeping. All these good tracks. We didn't get to cover them. We wanted to do Preakness, but we'll be back at Belmont tomorrow. Churchill Downs, Gulfstream for Ricky's Rockets, who's just, I gotta say, been pretty hot lately. $18,000 cash last week at Churchill Downs, which I preferred it to be Pimlico since that's what we were all watching. But nonetheless, we're cashing somewhere. So we'll be back tomorrow as well. Obviously, you can check out racingdudes.com for all your content. If you are interested in the Fantasy League and this article, it's the first article up on racingdudes.com. Aaron had it updated, and I'll scroll down a little bit here. You guys can just basically see a little blurb about each horse. I'm not going to do that now. Basically, Aaron gave himself odds. He gave Jared some odds as well. So if you guys are interested in that, go to your offshore book and see if you can place a bet on Aaron Halterman. But that's going to do it. Check out racingdudes.com for all the content. And if you guys want to, if you missed a little bit at the beginning, we just did a Preakness recap. So if you guys want to hear what we said about Friday or something on Saturday's card, that will be available right after we end as well in about 10 seconds. So that will do it for us. We'll see you guys tomorrow again, Belmont Park. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy. Before we go, can we explain the 3 p.m. post? Basically, people that are working, I guess, you get 8 races. I don't really understand it either. I understand it more on Fridays than I would on Thursdays. I don't entirely get it, but yes, I guess for people that are working, they could duck out a little early. That's my best guess. There's no right or wrong answer. I have no idea. But that's going to do it for us. Yeah, we don't know. That's going to do it for us, though. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay safe, stay healthy. And if you are wagering, be responsible. We'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning.